today to honor 9 amazing graduate students who are getting their degrees this year. I'm here both as department chair, but also as the proud advisor of one of today's graduates. I've known all of you since you stepped foot in the Frick Fine Arts building some years ago. And it has been a real privilege to work together with you and to learn as much from you as you have, I think, from us. Over these years, we have come to know and love you not just as students and colleagues, but really as family. And I really mean that. My parental role is coming out, and I feel that very distinctly. So, but I'm happy to turn over the ceremonies now to our fearless Director of Graduate Studies, Minna Rajgopalan, who has been doing an amazing job in the trenches this year, especially this very difficult semester that we found ourselves in. So Minna, please take it away.
Thank you, Kirk, and welcome to everyone, really. Thank you all for joining in this virtual MA and PhD graduation ceremony. As Kirk said, I'm Minna Rajgopalan. I serve as the Director of Graduate Studies for the HAA, and it's been my great privilege and honor to do so for the past year. MA and PhD graduations are celebrations of long years of individual toil, personal sacrifice, and finally this accomplishment. Each of our graduates will shortly receive a fitting felicitation from their individual advisors. As DGS, however, I wanted to use my time to thank all of you, the families who have supported, encouraged, nourished, and inspired our graduates on their way to this remarkable achievement. You know who you are. You are the parents, you are the spouses, you are the partners, the children, and the close friends of all of our graduate students. Many of you have cohabited with medieval Buddhist nuns, French architectural historians, slightly racist French architectural historians, maybe even, from the 19th century, video artists from Brazil and Pittsburgh, and portrait painters of George Washington for far too long. And really our immense gratitude to all of you for all of the privations that you may have suffered on the way there. Today we're celebrating our graduate students who have pursued and solved very difficult research problems. They have pondered the medieval mysteries of illuminated manuscripts in Central Europe and investigated the complex afterlives of George Washington's portraits. The research pursued by the stellar group of scholars represents a vast global reach, including the embroideries made by Buddhist nuns from human hair to queer and women video artists located right here in Pittsburgh. The very geographical and linguistic worlds that our graduate students command is also evident in the research projects that they've pursued on artists who've traveled between Latin America and China, and the impact of race theory on French imperial architecture. Several of our graduates have done really groundbreaking work on female artists from France and Brazil, artists who have until now been marginalized in the history of art. So yes, each of these is a history of some place, persons, and artworks, but each of these projects also has compelling lessons for the worlds we inhabit today. And we are so very grateful to each of our graduate students for really boldly sort of tackling these difficult research problems. Today, we celebrate each of these remarkable MA and PhD graduates and recognize their enormous intellectual promise. And now I'll turn it over to the individual advisors who will introduce each student and present their research. We will begin with our 2 graduating MA students and then present our 7 graduating PhDs. So the first person I'm going to invite is Jennifer Jostin, who will be speaking about her graduating MA students. Jennifer?
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Yes? Yes. So my name is Jennifer Jostin. I'm an associate professor of modern and contemporary art of the Americas And it's my great pleasure to start our awarding of degrees here by introducing Marisol Villela Balderrama, who's the first of 2 master's degree recipients that we're going to honor today. The title of Marisol's MA paper is Between Havana and Beijing, Jose Venturelli's mural Camilo Cienfuegos, 1962. This study constitutes an important example of transnational, truly transnational art history. To write it, Marisol followed the trail of Venturelli, who is a committed Chilean artist of the Cold War era. Her research took her from her native Mexico to China and on to Cuba, where they're located. But to complete her paper, to really advance this research, she had to go to Venturelli's native Santiago de Chile last summer, where within his personal archives, she discovered and translated clippings from Chinese newspapers that offered Venturelli's own reflections on the meanings of his Cuban mural. Professor Gaoming Liu and I are proud of all that she was able to accomplish in these first 4 semesters at Pitt, and we look very forward to seeing where her research takes her next. Congratulations, Marisol.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And I'm really glad we're here together celebrating. So all my life I have been very privileged, especially for having the love and support of my family. But during these 2 years doing the MA program, I have felt even more privileged of having the chance of learning and sharing my ideas and experiences with everyone at HAA and with Pitt. I think every day I keep learning from other students and professors and staff members who are passionate about their work and inspire me to be myself too this way. I especially thank Jennifer Justin for her guidance during this process, and this guidance started from the very first time we met in Mexico City before I started the program, and it has continued since then through different situations and through distance. And I'm happy of having done this project and this MA program along with other friends, with Arishi and with Brooke, and it has been much more fun with them. I'm looking forward to continuing in this PhD program and academic life adventure with you all. So congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Marisol, and congratulations again. And I'm going to now turn it over to Professor Barbara McCloskey, who will introduce her MA student.
Hi, everybody. I'm so pleased. We've got former graduates here and family members. It's just too wonderful. I mean, I can't believe it. I would much prefer to have all of this in person, but this is the next best thing. So great to see all of you. And I have the distinct honor of introducing Brooke, talking a little bit about Brooke. I don't see her on my page. I assume she's somewhere around here. But at any rate, we first came to know Brooke in 2017 when she took some post-baccalaureate courses in our department. And I was really pleased that she ended up in my foundations class. And over that term, she and I had some wonderful experiences over at the museum talking about artworks together, talking about art history, really having terrific exchanges with each other. And I was really, really delighted when she accepted our offer to join us in our graduate program in 2018. And Brooke comes to her work with a rather extraordinary background. She earned her BA at the University of Pennsylvania in fine art and art history. And then she went on to earn several MAs. One of them was in painting at the University College London. And then she took 2 additional MA qualifications in the areas of the field of education and professional counseling and psychology and psychological services. And she's also amassed quite a list of experiences, including the teaching of art, working in arts administration in various capacities, and providing psychological counseling to families and children. And I mention all this because this very rich background wove very interestingly into Brooke's MA topic. We tested out several possibilities along the way, but it was clear to me that Brooke's heart was really in researching so-called outsider or outlier art in the history of modern art for her MA. And for those of you who may not be familiar with this concept of outlier or outsider art, this generally refers to individuals who are not part of the normative training and production and marketing of arts. But nonetheless, they are enormously important for the history of modern art, in particular in the 20th century. And Brooke chose to devote her MA research work to a woman, Séraphine Louis, who is an early 20th century French outlier artist. And until Brooke came along, Louis' work had been described for the most part as the product of a kind of naive, mentally unstable, quirky woman who had a weird, obsession with painting still lifes. And Brooke was very determined to restore agency to Louis, and to do so through taking her art very seriously and looking at that art as the product of serious deliberation rather than a kind of uncontrollable compulsion. The title of her MA is From Nature Morte to Nature Vivante, Séraphine Louis as Artist. And that was a very, oh, there she is. I see you in the corner now. Okay. This work, as I say, allowed Brooke to bring a lot of her training and experience to bear on this topic. And, this included her psychological insight. This included her extraordinary sensitivity for artistic process. And her critical understanding of how notions of biography and mental instability and so forth can become extraordinarily delimiting in all aspects of life. But in art history, it has also very much impinged on our notions of what art is and what it's about, and particularly with respect to outsider artists. So she, through this work, has done some really significant revision of our understanding, not only of Louis, but our sensitivity to what outlier art is about in general. So this work took her to France to do her research. She spent a lot of time there. I think her MA probably shows maybe half of what she dug up. A lot of stuff had to hit the cutting room floor to get it in on time for the MA, but the good part of that is that she's got a lot of other knowledge behind her already that has laid a really good foundation for her further work for her PhD. So I'm really delighted to be along for the ride. My congratulations to Brooke on her hard work. And I also want to say a special thank you to Alex Taylor, who was a very important second reader and mentor to Brooke throughout this entire project. So congratulations. I wish we could celebrate in person, but we'll just have to take a rain check on that.
Thanks, Barbara. I know we don't have very much time, so I don't know if I should run through my thanks really quickly, or it's about 1 minute, so I'll go quickly. It was exactly 1 year ago today that I arrived in France to start my MA research in earnest, and I am starting to sense that between then and now a change has taken place, where I have moved from being a student to also becoming a scholar. I want to thank my partner Jenny for loving and supporting me during this challenging year, and most of all because it was our conversations about my research that helped me to find my voice and to remember why I want to do this work. I also want to thank my friend and colleague Marisol. We went through every step of this process together. I'm so grateful for that, and she inspires me and challenges me, and she's a true friend. Congratulations, Marisol. Venceremos! I would also like to thank Alex Taylor for being my second reader and for bringing so much enthusiasm and to my project, as well as his deft critical eye. Finally, I want to thank Barbara. who has supported me through the numerous times that I completely changed direction, no matter how obscure my research ideas were. She has helped me to understand my strengths and to find what I'm most passionate about. And her support with my writing process has been astute, imaginative, and encouraging. Thank you, Barbara, and congratulations to all the graduates.
Thank you so much, Barbara and Brooke. And now that concludes the felicitation of our MA graduates, and we're going to move on to our PhD graduates. And I'm going to turn it back to Jennifer, Professor Jennifer Jostin at this point.
Thank you so much, Minna. It's my pleasure to introduce to you now Maria Castro, who is receiving her PhD for her dissertation Between Sao Paulo and Paris, Tarsila do Amaral and the Intersecting Identities of Anthropophagia. Tarsila was an artist, a woman, born to a relatively elite family in Sao Paulo, really outside of Sao Paulo, Brazil. She charted a very independent and in the 1920s, moving between her native Brazil and France, Paris specifically. In the process, she initiated anthropophagia, which means cannibalism in Portuguese. This is a movement, an avant-garde movement, which was and continues to be a very important stimulus for art culture and really culture now in Brazil. Like Tarsila, Maria charted her own path, coming from Brazil to Pittsburgh, where first she earned her undergraduate degree, and then returning to Brazil as an art historical researcher at the time of her master's thesis, which was on the Semana de Arte Moderna of Sao Paulo in 1922, of which Tarsila, this was the foundation for her eventual dissertation research, this MA work. So after returning to Brazil as a researcher, Maria started traveling farther afield, spending a lot of time in France and Paris and other parts of the world on the trail of Tarsila and her collaborators. And so one thing that I want to take note of is that in addition to this very impressive transnational dimension of her research process, which exposes the transnational nature of this artistic practice, Maria's work on Tarsila, who's very well known in Brazil, is the first major study to address the specific dynamics of race, class, and gender that underpin Tarsila's artistic practice and the movement of anthropophagia as a whole. While developing this work, Maria, who also earned her BA from this department and from the history department, I want to give them credit for some of their excellent formation of her research and writing skills, also charted a course as a curator. She assisted with exhibitions in our own university art gallery, then at Carnegie Museum of Art, where she assisted with the exhibition Elio Uiticica to organize Delirium, and then at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, where she researched and wrote much of her dissertation while on a 2-year pre-doctoral fellowship. Currently, and since December of 2018, Maria is assistant curator at SF MoMA at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And we look very forward to following her next steps as she continues to reveal new insights into the transnational dimensions of art from Brazil and from across the Americas writ large. So with that, I congratulate Maria on her many achievements, and I offer this hood virtually as a substitute and avatar of the robe and hood that I hope you're able to acquire. Maybe we'll enact this hooding again in real time at a moment in the not too distant future. Congratulations again, Maria.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really can't express how grateful I am for all your support and your kind mentorship over the years. I really just owe so much to you. And I also want to say thanks to Barbara and Kirk, who were a part of my committee and supported me along the way. And I want to thank the entire faculty and the staff in HAA for so many wonderful experiences. I remember when I was 17 and I walked into the Frick Fine Arts for the first time to meet with, when I had just been admitted as an undergrad, to meet with Gretchen and talk about the art history program. I was so nervous and I really couldn't imagine where that would lead me. I grew up at Frick and I'll always be grateful for everyone who helped me find my place, for the generosity, for the mentorship and the lifelong friendships that I encountered there. I'll end by congratulating my friends and colleagues who are graduating today. I'm so proud to be a part of this group. We're facing many unexpected challenges right now, but I really can't wait to hear and to read about all the amazing things that I know you'll all go on to do. So thank you and congrats, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Maria. Congratulations again. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kirk, who is going to introduce and present our next PhD graduate. Kirk, you're.
Okay, so Isaac, I am really intensely thrilled to be here with you today to celebrate the culmination of your long journey with us, which has been at times difficult, but ultimately, to use a word from your dissertation, illustrious. I think illustrious in the end. Isaac wrote his dissertation while carrying a heavy load of responsibilities, raising a family, and teaching part-time at two institutions, not just Pitt here, but Washington and Jefferson University in Washington, PA, for several years now. And if you know Isaac's work, you'll know why I've made sure to mention Washington and Jefferson, because his dissertation breathed new life into the musty old subject of George Washington, specifically what Isaac called the posthumous lives of Washington's portraits in the 19th century. Isaac's engaging and insightful dissertation basically asks the question, how did citizens of this new nation decide which portrait of their illustrious leader among the hundreds of them was an authentic likeness? In the process, Isaac's dissertation tackles big questions in what we call, in our department, visual knowledge. His work throws a new light on portraiture in the 19th century, illuminating how standards of likeness changed before and after the introduction of photography. So I want to give a big congratulations to Isaac, who I see. I'm so happy to see you in your regalia, Isaac. And I was not able to get my regalia because it is under lock and key in a hard-locked building, the Frick Fine Arts building. So I put on my bow tie for the first time in years to try to compensate for that lack. But anyway, congratulations, Isaac, so much, and I'm so proud of you, and on behalf of everyone else here, congratulations to you.
Yay!
So, Isaac, are you there? Yes. We're not hearing you yet.
All right, is this one working now?
Yes.
Right. So I've had a mishap with my webcam and they're now like $300 to replace them. So I'm trying to make a workaround. I can see I am overdressed looking at all of you. But anyway, I got this costume, so I've got to wear it sometime. I want to, I don't know, I've been very kind of nostalgic thinking about, you know, new beginnings, next steps. And I just have been thinking about how 9 years ago, Pittsburgh was my next step. Julie, I, and little baby Clark moved across the country to come and study out here. And now, 9 years later, I have 2 other children, and they're all getting bigger. And I just can't think of a better place to have been for the last 9 years. And, you know, maybe that's why I've stuck around so long. But I don't know, I'm very grateful for all of the friendships that I've developed here. You know, Kirk, you've been an excellent support for me and my research, and very patient and understanding throughout the process. I appreciate that. Drew, I really appreciate your mentorship as well. And you know, I don't see Josh here, but you know, Josh reached out to me on a personal level after my father passed away, and that was very meaningful. I did not anticipate getting weepy, so I'll just say thank you to everyone. Congratulations, and have fun.
Thank you so much for that, Kirk, and also Isaac. And yes, I mean, you should absolutely feel weepy. This is, I hope they're good weepy tears though. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Shirin. Shirin, are you able to come in?
I think so. It kicked me out a few minutes ago. So if that happens again, I apologize, but I'm here now. So let me just say, I'm here to introduce Allison McCann and to congratulate her on completing her dissertation. So Allison's dissertation was titled Women's Books, Gendered Piety and Patronage in Late Medieval Bohemian Illuminated Codices. And I have to say, I wrote something because I was also worried that I would get weepy, and so I completely understand. It's incredibly emotional and really wonderful to see all of you, even if it's virtually and not in person. So throughout her time in our program, Allison has always maintained a very clear set of goals for herself. And I'm super proud to look back now and realize she has achieved them all. She arrived at Pitt with a strong focus on medieval books, and she has emerged from the program with an outstanding dissertation on an important group of illuminated manuscripts made for aristocratic women in late medieval Bohemia at a time when Central European visual culture was experiencing an unprecedented rise in political and also artistic prominence. So Allison developed an interest in Prague and the Czech Republic early on, and she was successful in not only learning the Czech language from scratch while she was our student, but she also secured travel grants that allowed her to spend significant time exploring the Czech Republic and this part of the world more broadly. Allison also realized early on that the Hedwig Codex, one of the most important European books to survive from the 14th century and one of the most famous manuscripts in the United States today, would be a key cornerstone of her dissertation. So it's to Allison's enormous credit that the curators at the Getty, which owns the Hedwig Codex, actually gave her access to the original manuscript. This is a very rare thing, but they gave her access because they recognized the significance of her research, and also because she was just so persistent in being at the Getty and looking at all the research files and asking for access until she finally got it. So I'm incredibly happy about this. I could go on, but you get the idea. Allison's goal was to work on manuscripts produced in Bohemia. She went out, she acquired the skills and also the professional skills, but the professional contacts required to achieve her goal. Her project contributes enormously to the study of gender in medieval history, and she unpacks the roles of Central European women, not only as the recipients, but also the patrons, and sometimes even the subjects of these fascinating books. During her time at Pitt, Allison also established a secondary and in some ways really even more important goal, which was to set herself up for a successful future career in academic publishing. It is one of our core priorities in this department and this university to support our students as they figure out what they actually want to do with a PhD in the history of art and architecture. So I'm enormously proud that Allison was able to recognize her interest in this career path early on and establish a firm path forward while she was still our student. So many of you know about Allison's enormous contributions to our in-house journal, Contemporaneity, After a successful term as its co-editor-in-chief, Allison went out and won a competitive internship in the publications department of the Getty, where her manuscript is housed, while she was still working on her dissertation. And the Getty, after a year, was so happy and impressed with her work that they kept offering her new projects and kept employing her even after the internship was over. So we're delighted that Allison got all this work, but also delighted, even more delighted, that she kept her eyes on the prize and was able to balance her career goals and her work with her dissertation. So this past year, Allison not only completed the PhD with flying colors, but she was also appointed to a permanent job as publications manager in the Center for Medieval and Renaissance Studies at the University of California in Los Angeles. This is an incredibly promising start to Allison's career, and we're all looking forward to watching her emerge not only as a scholar of medieval manuscripts, but also as a real leader in academic editing and publishing. So congratulations, Allison. I'm enormously proud of you and everything you've accomplished, and I cannot wait to see you in person, hopefully in California.
Thank you, Sharon. That was awesome. Maybe it's because we're all stuck inside right now, but when I was looking back on the last 7 years, what seems most remarkable to me are the places that I traveled and the things that I got to look at when I was there. So the experience of being basically alone in a beautiful reading room in Vienna or Prague or Chicago or Los Angeles with a 600-year-old book, or of spending an uncanny Sunday in a small town in East Germany with the pre-mod squad. These experiences are really like no other, and it's what really sticks with me. So I'd like to thank the department and the School of Arts and Sciences for their generous research and travel funding. And I'm also thankful for the people that I got to spend the time with, especially my cohort, the aforementioned pre-mod squad, and Sharon and Chris, especially my two greatest mentors in the program, for being so generous and excellent. So thank you. I'm really glad that I actually got to see everybody when I defended in December, or at least a lot of people. That kind of feels like a lifetime ago now. But I'm also glad for this opportunity to see everybody virtually, friends and family. So I have my doctoral chalice, which I will raise to I'll raise to my fellow graduates, who I'm honored to be in your company, and I wish you all the best. So cheers. Cheers, Allison. Thank you so much, Sharon. And with that, I will pass it on to Terry Smith now. Terry?
Okay. Yep. Hi. So wonderful to see everybody. Just before I go to Ben, who I see is also wearing a great bow tie. Excuse me, Ben, all I could do is put on a jacket, but I did it in your honor, even though it's very hot. Before I go on to Ben, wonderful to see a graduate from last year, Nicole. Nicole Scalisi is here with us, with her partner, John. So hi, Nicole, fantastic. Wonderful to see you here. And I'm sure other graduates, I can only see half of everybody, but I'm sure there are other ones out here. So Ben, let's talk about Ben. Ben is an exceptional figure. He's our first film studies HAA PhD graduate. So that's already historical. It's already a breakthrough. The dissertation he's completed is similarly historical and a breakthrough piece of work. Steel City Cinema, independent and experimental filmmaking in the Rust Belt. That's quite a long way from our first topic, which was to do with what we call gallery cinema, or artworks projected in a cinematic way in art galleries. It never quite took with Ben. But what Ben did in Pittsburgh, as he was interning at the Warhol and working with the Carnegie Museum of Art, the files of their great film section no longer exist, but the files do. As he worked with them, and as he basically helped the film scene in Pittsburgh become alive again through a lot of his own efforts, Ben also realized that that in fact was his topic. And so he's produced a thesis that is about the unique role of Pittsburgh as the sort of second city after New York for experimental film in this country. He vividly evokes the moment when Pittsburgh was on its knees economically and socially, but was the seeding ground of this renaissance, the cultural renaissance, which we're actually benefiting from. It's a kind of slow renaissance in Pittsburgh. He discusses the film section of the Carnegie Museum of Art, Pittsburgh Filmmakers Cooperative at its beginnings and its heyday. They were crucial platforms for the development of film in Pittsburgh. Several famous New York-based filmmakers came to visit the city, but what they found was that there were many, many local filmmakers doing work just as interesting, sometimes more interesting. And these are people who worked in the steel mills, who worked in avant-garde contexts, who worked in queer contexts, who worked in contexts that were contextless in this weirdly disturbed, disrupted kind of fashion. There's also a really extremely interesting breakthrough idea that emerges. He looked at film portraits, portraits of individuals, portraits of the city, but he realized that Pittsburgh filmmaking was dominated, unlike anywhere else, by the work of women filmmakers, such as Peggy Owesh and Stephanie Domaiki, and exhibitors and organizers, such as Sally Dixon, people who set up national and international frameworks for experimental film. So Pittsburgh in that way was exceptional, but in many ways, it was typical of a lot of regional cinemas. And Ben's written a study that will serve as a model for looking at experimental filmmaking in regional settings throughout the world. Regional includes New York, by the way. That's a region within this international setup. We anticipate it's going to be a great book. So a successful dissertation is like based on hours and hours of looking, lots of interviews, careful interviews with the filmmakers, lots of relevant reading and a lot of hard thinking. Sharing all this with Ben for the past 8 years has been a wonderful journey. The same, I'm sure, goes for members of his committee, Barbara, Josh, Kirk helped at times, Randall Haller and Lucy Fisher from the Film Studies Department. So currently Ben is teaching at our neighbor, CMU, teaching in the art school there. I really look forward to following your career, Ben, as it flourishes. I've got this hood, it's nothing, my hood's all lucked up as well. So I went and got the hood from my own parka. So Ben, eventually we're going to put a hood that's got nice colors. It's not going to be as black and horrible as this. I look forward to the time when we can actually give you a proper kind of hood in the real space of our auditorium. So let's all congratulate Ben, fantastic stuff.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Jerry, for those kind words. And yeah, it's so nice to see everybody here. Similar to Isaac, I feel waves of nostalgia in this kind of Hollywood Squares arrangement of the department right now. I just wanted to briefly express my thanks to my faculty mentors, Terry, Barbara, Josh, members of the Film Studies program at Pitt, Alex Taylor and Anna, who co-organize the Collecting Knowledge Pittsburgh activities through the history of art. That was a tremendous experience for me. Also have to give big thanks to Linda and Caroline and Veronica, who, I don't know if Veronica's here, but she was a special source of support for me during my time and kept the trains running on time. So I appreciate that. And some of the graduates who were important sources of inspiration and constructive criticism, Nicole Scalisi, who I see there with John, Paulina, Isaac, some people who aren't here, Madeline, but she's really great too, Kylie, Colleen, and there's many others, but I don't want to, take up too much time. And then my family, my dad and mom are here somewhere in a little cube, and my partner Joanna and parents-in-law Di and Bill Reed, who are also watching. But I'm just really excited about the next phase of my career, and I think all of us are getting adjusted to this new paradigm of providing instruction and doing research under these circumstances. But I can tell by seeing all of you here that, you know, through cooperation and support, which the department already specializes in, we'll be able to achieve great things. So thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Terry and Ben, and congratulations again, Ben. And I'm going to pass it over back now to Jennifer, Professor Jennifer Jostin.
So it's my pleasure to be speaking again here for the third and final time to introduce Paulina Pardo Gaviria, who is receiving her PhD for her dissertation titled Letícia Parenti, Embodying New Media Art Strategies in 1970s Brazil. Paulina came to Pitt in 2014 after studying at the Universidad de los Andes in her native Bogota, Colombia, and after earning an MA at Stony Brook University in art history. She came with an image in her mind of a still from a poor quality black and white video from the 1970s of the sole of a foot into which someone whose face wasn't visible was stitching words, and the words stitched into the sole of that foot are "Made in Brazil." This was an image she had seen as an undergraduate, and it stayed with her, and she followed it to Brazil. She pursued it not only because she was so fascinated by this one particular image, but because she recognized that contemporary artists in Brazil and their connections to their peers in other parts of Latin America, particularly Spanish-speaking Latin America, and elsewhere in the continent and the world remain notably understudied. And so with this interest in mind, she plunged headfirst into learning Brazilian Portuguese at Pitt, began traveling to Brazil, and within an extremely short period of time, in her first summer there, was not only enmeshed in an artistic scene of the 1970s, but really became very close to members of the family of the artist Letícia Parenti, who had made that grainy video from the 1970s, stitching words into her own foot. The small body of existing scholarship in Parenti is almost entirely written in Portuguese in Brazil, and focuses on that one video, and that one which is called Marca Registrada, or trademark. Inclusion of Parenti's installation and mail art and Xerox art efforts. So Paulina's dissertation is the only study that exists that takes stock of the full scope of this important female artist's artistic career. This allows to offer important insights into the relationships between gender, science, politics, and artistic practice in Brazil during its military dictatorship, which went on from 1964 into the 1980s. At the same time that she has developed this incredible network in Brazil, in part through her internship at Brazil's major organization dedicated to video art in Sao Paulo and otherwise, she's also been an incredibly vital and present member of our community in HIA, at Pitt, and in Pittsburgh as a curator, working at the UAG particularly, and also in other associations, but also very much as a teacher and as a leader of art labs, and as a mentor to other graduate students and undergraduate students. She's brought much greater visibility to the presence of Latinx and Latin American art and artists in Pittsburgh. We're so proud of all of her achievements and can't wait to see all that comes next for Paulina. With that, I offer once again the virtual hood to Paulina in anticipation of her receiving one of these herself and having it in the closet, perhaps the home closet we now see, as opposed to the office closet in the future, in case of future Zoom graduations. Congratulations, Paulina.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody, for putting this together. Thank you specifically, Jennifer, for your very holistic mentorship. I couldn't have asked for better guidance for my entire project and my entire time at Pitt. Thank you as well for my committee, for Barbara and Terry. You're right in front, in the middle, in the center of my screen. Thank you for your constant support since the time that I presented the very early stages of my project. You both have no doubt that this was feasible and that I should pursue it, and that enthusiasm kept me going. First, learning Portuguese, as Jennifer said, at the Cathedral of Learning, very far from Brazil and from other Brazilians or from other Portuguese speakers, but certainly the beginning of a long, long journey that has been very enjoyable. Thank you as well for my fellow graduates, in particular to Maria Castro, who spoke first, and I'm not seeing at this moment on the screen, but she was very generous from the very first moment when I visited Pittsburgh, and what that really showed me is that I was coming into an incredibly generous academic department. So I definitely will take that with me for years to come. Thank you so much. Thank you as well for my family who's watching from all over the world, in Colombia, in Francia, in Chile. Hola para todos. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Bravo! Bravo!
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and congratulations again, Paulina. And
Bravo, Paulis!
And I'm now going to hand it over to Drew Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Mina. I feel there's a tidal wave of enthusiasm bathing us from around the world at this moment. It's wonderful to see everyone. Kylie Seltzer, what can I say? It has been such a pleasure to enjoy your presence around the department. And also I'd like to express my appreciation and our colleagues' appreciation for your work as a mentor with other graduate students and with the undergraduate architectural studies majors as well over the past few years. Kylie's dissertation was titled Housing Identities, Displaying Race and Environment in Paris, 1870 to 1892. She defended her dissertation on March 18th, a day that I'm sure that for all of us on the committee will go down as quite an extraordinary one, as the campus and the planet were shutting down as a consequence of the COVID-19 epidemic. Despite that, and our first Zoom interaction as a committee, it went extraordinarily well, though we were unable to celebrate appropriately afterwards. So that's going to have to hang there as something we will do at a future time. I'd like to thank the other members of the committee, Mina Rajagopalan, Kirk Savage, and Autumn Womack, who is at Princeton. Kylie's dissertation built on her MA thesis, which was titled The Aryan Contribution, Visualizing Race Through Architectural History in Charles Garnier's Histoire de l'Habitation Humaine. And what that MA investigated was the work of one of the most preeminent architects of the 19th century, who designed some 40 exhibition pavilions representing different periods in human history, all of which were arrayed around the base of the Eiffel Tower, facing onto the river Seine. Quite an amazing project that is not especially well studied and that Kylie has made significant inroads into understanding. Kylie came to us in 2012 from the University of Minnesota, and among the numerous awards that she was granted during her time here, the most prestigious in 2018 was the Carter Manny Dissertation Writing Award from the Graham Foundation for the Advanced Studies in the Visual Arts in Chicago. It's a real tribute to the quality of her work. At the same time, 2018-19, she was the graduate student assistant to the Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Studies in the Dietrich School, working on a Mellon-funded project researching humanities careers, reimagining doctoral education in the Dietrich School of Arts and Sciences. So Kylie has positioned herself on the leading edge of thinking about what is it that doctoral education can lead towards, apart from becoming a professor. Her dissertation expands on that initial master's paper and looks more generally at the way that architecture was used to embody racial identities in a variety of public venues in late 19th century Paris. So she was grappling with those French racists that Mina referred to at the beginning, and really trying to understand what it was that they were doing, not only in exhibiting human beings from around the world, but also constructing buildings, full-scale structures to illustrate something about those human communities. So her topic is one that is essentially at the intersection of science, especially anthropology, which was developing in the late 19th century in Europe, but also architecture, colonial expansion, and public education during the beginning of the French Third Republic, a period where France is both expanding its colonial empire, but also grappling with a humiliating defeat in 1870-71 at the hands of the Prussian army. So essentially, she's looking at a whole set of sites in the heart of the French capital where race and environment are being brought together in order to illustrate something about humanity. But ultimately, what she reveals is that these sites are places where anxieties and distortions and fictions about race are being brought together to talk about what it is that France is trying to imagine itself as being in the late 19th century global context. So Kylie, a tremendous, fascinating piece of work from which I learned a great deal, and I look forward to our future conversations about your next projects. Congratulations.
I have to echo what Ben said, where it was overwhelming to see everyone. And then I saw Linda and I was like, oh my gosh, Linda's here. Hi, Linda. For those of you who aren't in our department, Linda is essentially our babysitter. Nothing would get done without Linda. So it is just such a joy to see her here. Thank you first, of course, to Minna and Kirk for being so diligent about planning this and persevering through these very uncertain times. When Drew inherited me as a graduate student, I was a 22-year-old coming straight in from undergrad. You have a lot to learn, he repeated to me throughout my first year. And indeed, he was right. Now, on the eve of my 30th birthday, I have reflected quite a bit on the fact that throughout my 8 years at Pitt, I became an adult. I moved across the country, I met and married my husband, and I poured my soul into a dissertation. Although I don't know where my graduate education will take me, perhaps the most important lesson that I learned is about leadership. As those of you who are unfamiliar with our program will doubtless remark, ours is a program of women. The vast majority of our graduate students are women, and at least half of our faculty are too. And what I have learned is that leadership is so often in the small, uncelebrated events. It is in the reassurance that comes in times of uncertainty, the encouragement to pursue a new idea, or the support to speak your mind. Moreover, the leadership that our faculty has modeled for me has demonstrated, my husband just spilled a bunch of pens, that's all right. We're at home, it's fine. Moreover, the leadership that our faculty has modeled for me has demonstrated that leadership and compassion are not incongruous. In fact, the vulnerability, empathy, and dare I say, love that comes with women's leadership is also its greatest strength. It is standing up for what's right, using your voice to demand better for those around you, and creating a seat for yourself at the table without shame. Although my committee of Drew, Kirk, and Minna have been the pillars of my HAA experience and deserve many more thanks than this 2-minute speech can contain, I cannot help but also think of times when Jennifer Jostyn, Barbara McCloskey, Allison Langmead, Gretchen Bender selflessly gave me the advice that I desperately needed to hear in just the right moment. So as I embark into this big wide world, I still have a lot to learn, but I cannot thank the HAA community enough for showing me how to be bold, thoughtful, and compassionate. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, both Drew and Kylie. And the next person and our final graduate is Dr. Carolyn Wargula, and she is an advisee of Professor Karen Gerhardt. And I'm not sure if Karen is actually listening in, but Karen has entrusted me to read a few words on behalf of her. So I am going to be actually reading this note that Karen sent for, I'm trying to find Caroline here on my screen. I see you now, Caroline. So here goes. It is with great pleasure that I announce the completion and awarding of the doctorate in Japanese art history to Caroline Wargula. Her dissertation, Embodying the Buddha, the presence of women in Japanese Buddhist embroideries, 1200 to 1700, explores the patronage, materiality, and ritual function of Buddhist devotional embroideries that were created by women using their own hair as thread. Carolyn's research has broadened our understanding of how women use such images to circumvent gender biases embedded in Buddhism and to physically establish themselves within male-dominated spaces. From the beginning, Caroline has been an exceptional student who brought to her studies superb language and research skills and insightful ideas. I am so excited to see her begin her career this fall as a visiting assistant professor at Williams College. Caroline, congratulations. I am so proud of you. And I would just like to say that we're all so proud of you, Caroline.
Hi, thank you so much, Mina, for reading Karen's comments. I know that she had technical issues, so she couldn't make it here today via camera, but I just want to first say thank you to all of my peers, many of you who are graduating today, many of you who have graduated in the past, my mentors. I feel so grateful to have been part of this community where I feel like we really share resources, feedback, materials, and just to be with all of you such inspiring graduate students has been incredible for my growth. And I think that is one of the biggest strengths of our department is just how sharing and caring that all of us graduate students are. So thank you to all of you. I also want to say thank you to my committee, Karen, Catherine Lindoff, Sharon, and also Clark Chilson from the Religious Studies Department for all of their constructive feedback, and all of you were so generous with your time. I felt so prepared for all of the milestones because you were so willing to meet with me. And, you know, not just the milestones for graduate school, but also for grants and jobs. And really, I could not have come this far or done this without your support. So thank you to all of you. And also to the department. I'm so grateful to have been part of a department that pushes for excellence and growth. And I feel like I have so many role models for the future in the fall when I teach, or, you know, in the future, whatever, wherever life takes me. I feel like I have great role models, mentors, great role models for teaching, for research, for leadership. So thank you to all of you. And I know that these are very uncertain times ahead, but I think one of the very silver linings in one of these moments is that this is a time for innovation. And coming from a department that is so big on innovation, I think that all of us graduate students, no matter where life will take us, I think that we should all be prepared during these very challenging times. So thank you to all of you, and thank you for organizing this.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And yes, I do want to reiterate that Karen couldn't join us because of some technical issues, but she's here in spirit, if not in form. So those are our illustrious PhD students, PhD graduates, and we can all start referring to them as doctors now. I'm going to turn it over to Professor Kirk Savage, who will also be announcing the winners of a very important prize now.
Oh, thank you, Minna, and taking my cue from Kylie and her wonderful remarks about the oversized role of women in this department and at all levels, faculty, student, and staff. I get to have the distinct pleasure here of honoring 3 extraordinary women associated with the department's Marstein Prize. And the first one of those women is Janet Marstein herself, who is a PhD alum of this department from years ago, and who funded this prize very generously along with her family. Janet herself has had a very distinguished career in museum studies and museum ethics. And the prize that she has so generously funded here recognizes superior achievement in curatorial, publishing, and/or museum studies work dedicated to inclusiveness and community outreach. This year, the prize has been split between 2 superb projects and 2 superb students. And these are the 2 other women that I am so grateful to be honoring here. Ellen Larson and Marisol Viela. Ellen, yeah. Ellen is being honored for the exhibition that she curated in the University Art Gallery entitled Materializing Memory, Contemporary Video Art from China, and for its ambitious programming that reached high school students and Mandarin speakers, among others. Marisol is being honored for a community-based mural entitled Disrespecting the Border, which was conceived and executed by her along with an interdisciplinary group of collaborators who activated dialogue about the Latinx presence in Pittsburgh by using a wall as a device for connection rather than division. So our congratulations and also our deep thanks to both Ellen and Marisol for these tremendous projects that shined a real spotlight on our department and its engagement with the university and the community outside our walls. So again, thanks very much and congratulations to both of you.
Thank you, Kirk. Now I know that you are all probably wondering when we're going to have a big round of applause, and that's coming shortly. We're hoping that we can all switch off our microphones and clap very loudly for the graduate students, our newly minted PhDs and our MA graduates, and also the winners of the Marstein Prize. I would just, sorry. Let me just offer some closing remarks before we do that. I wanted to thank all of you for participating in this alternative graduation ceremony. We're all gathered here today in these strange times to celebrate the triumph of knowledge and the pursuit of ideas. Margaret Atwood was on public radio recently, and she presented this rather terse history of modernity, which I think many of us would appreciate. She said that the Industrial Revolution was fueled by coal, a labor-intensive product, and it was an age largely of production and manufacturing. Then came the age of oil and natural gas, relatively cheap to produce and easy to speculate on, which led to rampant consumption and the insatiable thirst for things, new things, cheap things. Today, we find ourselves poised, perhaps pushed to the brink of another turn. The era of stewardship. where the care of the earth cannot be separated from self-care and the care of others. Our planetary microbiome has finally put us on notice, and there is no return to our pasts driven by indifference or individualism. Whilst our futures no doubt look a little scary, I worry a little less when I think of you, our newly minted MA and PhD graduates. You will be our fellow stewards of that new age, this new normal of face masks, hand sanitizers, and yes, Zoom-enabled graduations. So thank you all very much. And let's now have that unmuted. Please unmute yourself and let's have a big round of applause.
Parties. Yay.
Bravo, Paulina.
Party, super. Super party.
Bravo, Paulina.
Hey, Ben. Good job.
PhDers.
Oh, I don't get on the picture.
All right. Okay. That's it.
So I guess I'm going to thank you all for coming, and I hope that we will maybe see each other again for real in the future in an actual ceremony at some point. But in the meantime, thank you so much to all the friends, family, and students who came here today. And it means so much to me and to all the rest of us to see your faces here, to see so many old familiar faces, but also so many new ones too. So thank you very much. And we will stay in touch, please. Okay, bye-bye.